Welcome back to another episode of the AC Milan Zone podcast. We come back here after the game against Verona, victorious yet again. We're maybe starting to pick up some steam. Ozzy, thanks for joining me as always. How you feeling?
Good afternoon, Step. Yeah, good 3 points in the bag. Can't complain. Can't complain going into the international break. It's a good feeling.
Let's jump straight into the game. Obviously, as we see in the graphic, 3-1 win, a convincing win. One where we played almost like the very beginning of the season. Quite aggressive, a lot going forward. Still perhaps some holes in the back because we just committed so many players forward. We saw Calabria, bombing and being in the box a lot of times. We saw, of course, Teo being up to his usual pushing forward. But a little bit of, before, for our longest part of the darkest part of the season, we used to commit a lot of players forward, pass the ball around, and then still be susceptible to counterattacks. This time we were actually being very dangerous. We could have scored more, especially in the first half. What did you think about the game overall and how we played?
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you saying that it was a convincing win. Not only the scoreline, I thought we played well. It's nice to see that players seemed a bit refreshed. We had some rotation. That certainly has been working now the last few weeks. Yeah, a lot of going forward, a bit more open game. I think in the previous pod I said we might be seeing the same style of opposition that we played against when we played against Empoli. 11 behind the ball, but Verona, didn't necessarily play like that, and then hit us sometimes on the break. But we eventually sorted it out. So overall, convincing win. Happy to see different goal scorers. Apart from
Mm-hmm.
Pulisic, obviously he scores very often. Teo's back to himself. We can talk about that later as well.
Yeah,
So happy to see the celebrations when Chuck scored a very good goal. That's a good finish. Hopefully, he
absolutely
gets
banger.
his confidence back, and all the boys smile. I think there's a great picture of Chuck smiling with Leao and Tomori on both sides smiling. So seems like the squad is in good spirits compared to what it was in around November time.
Yeah, I think, obviously I think a player like Chukwueze probably feels it a lot, that sort of pressure. He scored in Champions League, but had yet to score in Serie A. Hadn't gotten a lot of minutes. Pioli at some point, a couple of games back, was also talking about, when questioned about why Chukwueze wasn't playing, he mentioned, Pulisic works hard, scores and assists. Chukwueze needs to work hard, score and assist. So maybe there was a little bit of a dig. And I'm just glad that he could get it off his back. And I think the big celebration that you're mentioning with the whole team, where we're just the whole team understanding that he probably wanted that pretty bad, and it's good for his confidence.
Yeah, I mean, especially after Nigeria's exit in the AFCON. This is the second time I bring up the AFCON so frequently about our players, but that can't have been nice for him. He didn't see a lot of minutes. Had the
Mm-hmm.
AFCON taken place a year ago, I think he would have probably been on the sort of starting 11 because he did so well at Villarreal,
Yeah.
and now he's sort of been well, he's been very cold. Couple of injuries in the beginning of the season, but not getting that playtime, so it's probably a huge release.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I mean, he's also a little bit unlucky uh, with us because Pulisic has just been so good. So even if I think Chuk would be performing quite well, probably would see a lot more minutes off the bench. But, I don't think it would be a massive difference. He wouldn't, really break into the starting spot. And the same thing with Nigeria. He probably would have started, you're right, if it was a year ago. But there's a lot of talent for them going forward. Um, Even in the same position and the likes of Lukman and so on. But yeah, very happy for him. Um, I thought if we start to break down the game sort of one by one, the first step was very very lively. I thought Okafor, who comes out with on paper not a lot of no goal, no official assist, let's say, played an excellent game again. He's looking great. This time as the striker in the striker spot. So instead of Giroud with Leao and with Pulisic, what did you think of that? Do we have the steal to the goal? That sort of pressure, I think it's super important. Giroud always tries hard. You can't really deny him on that. He does a lot of work. He comes back a lot. I think we saw it also when he came back in the subbed on. Giroud Giroud is always gonna put in a shift and be the player you kind of need. But that steal from Okafor, I think, was world class. I'm putting it up now for the viewers. He did really good work overall. It's a shame that he doesn't come away with a goal or an assist. Um, but I thought he did very well. Also, in the first half, if we have a quick look here, that kind of crossbar that he hit, I mean, he shot it so well off the corner, and then was saved and then back onto the crossbar. I just thought he put in a really good shift. Obviously, man of the match is probably going to go towards someone like Pulisic or Theo, but I thought Chuk did very well. So I think, Ozzy, I think you're back.
Yep,
Give
yep.
me
Sorry, I
one.
don't know, it's a bit of blip. I can hear you. Yep.
Wait, hold on. What did you think of Okafor and how he played, and him playing up top instead of Giroud instead, and with Leao and and um, and Pulisic?
Yeah, we've not seen this front trio, sort of front four, since the very beginning of the season, if I'm not mistaken. It was nice to see a bit of a change in role as our striker. You know, Okafor is a different type of striker than Giroud normally is, or even Jovic.
Yeah.
He's been pushed out to the left a lot because I've either played Giroud and Jovic when Leao's been suspended or resting a bit. Yeah, I think he's sort of an uncut diamond. Obviously, he's still very young. He's only, what, 22, 23. I think he can be a great Milan striker in the next few years. He's sort of the same, perhaps in a bit of the same learning curve as Leao was when he
Mm-hmm.
first came to
For sure.
Milan. Obviously, this is a different type of Milan than when Leao came 4 or 5 years ago now. But yeah, uh, he's going from in Swedish you say klarhet, like going from clarity to clarity. He's definitely a player that we should be seeing more and more of, even before next season. I hope to see this trio play again,
Yeah.
depending on the type of game. Maybe
Yeah.
not starting in a derby unless Okafor magically scores 5 goals a game. Then it's kind
Yeah.
of
We
hard
need
to
a hell
push
of a
him out.
run to do
But
that.
yeah, in these types of games, when we need that speed, we need somebody with a good touch or first touch, somebody who can break the line, somebody that chases down. I think I was looking at the Twitch stream when I blipped out of our call, but you know, somebody that can chase down a defender like that. I can't remember the last time any of our strikers really did that, and create those opportunities. So a different type of striker that is sorely it's been sorely missed at Milan compared to the Ibras and the Giroux.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there. I think the ability to give that sort of second option um, is huge, and I mean second option not only as just a second player coming off the bench after Giroud, but a second type of striker is quite big for us. Um, and I also think, I was a little worried when I saw him in the starting lineup because a lot of times with that striker spot, we saw Pioli try different solutions, try different players, but play in the same exact way. And Okafor is very clearly not Giroud, for the good and the bad. They're just very different players. And I liked how we adjusted and
Yep.
played a different type of football, allowed him to come back. We saw him and Leao switch a few times. Leao take more space, and then Okafor go on the left, make late runs in the box. I just thought he played very well, and I think to finish strong the second part of the season, we need a true option off the bench that can bring some firepower, especially if we want to try to make it all the way in competition like Europa League.
Yeah,
So I was
like
just very
like
happy
a
to
bit
see
like
that.
Rebic, a bit like Rebic was in the very beginning when he came. You know, he brought something different to the table, and you'd get these goals in magically. But obviously, I have a lot more hope for Okafor than our old friend Ante Rebic.
True. Although I have to say, I mean, obviously Rebic, sort of died off his performance eventually with age. But early Ante Rebic, he was starting ahead of Leao for good reason. He was putting on a shift.
Yep.
He was scoring. So when on form, I can't really fault him. And
No,
definitely
no,
shout
no.
out to
It's no
Ante.
diss to Ante, but I'm sort of that's the he finally there's a substitute that is properly. I mean, I don't think if they're both fully fit, whether it's Okafor or Leao, I don't think Leao will be taken or Locafor would be taken ahead of Liao. But he's someone on the bench who's young, who's hungry, who wants to come in and make a difference and try to get into that starting 11. So it's um, that sort of position rivalry, or the position rivalry is healthy.
Yeah, 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 for sure. And if Chuk also gets going, then we really have two full forward, two full attacks. I think Jovic can be a good option. He's not a world class player by any means, but he's shown that he can put the ball away. Leao, Pulisic, Chukwueze, and Okafor all in somewhat of a good form, would just be incredible. Who else? If I'm picking Okafor sort of downside hero, who was your man of the match?
Oh, I mean, I have to go with our boy Teo Hernandez.
Yeah.
He's been incredible 2024. I think he is sort of, I shouldn't say putting to bed these accusations of just being another left wing. We saw him in the very beginning of the year, so the start of this year, 2024, playing a centre back. Now he's back to his left back position in a back four. Everyone's healthy. He's making these runs that I shouldn't say have been missing in the first part of the season, but it's nice to see him being the Theo that we love the most. Enjoying his football, making those runs, having
Yeah.
the confidence to run, make those overlapping runs over Liao. It led to a goal. Now the goal was quite, I shouldn't say lucky, because he had to carry the ball up there and then make the run in behind sort of. But yeah, that's the Theo we love the most. I think it's 12 goals and assists already in 2024, topping most of Serie A.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, his
it's
numbers are
I've got to give
striker
it to Theo.
numbers. He's 2 goals away from Maldini's total at
Nope.
the club. Obviously, Maldini
Yeah.
was definitely not the tail type of going down and scoring, but still, this is with what 20 seasons less played for Milan. Um,
Yeah.
he's just an impressive talent, and I think our season really goes through him and Leao for the rest of the way. If we can finish strong, it will all be on their backs, and hopefully their health, especially Theo, who's just been playing nonstop because we have no one else on that side.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It'll
on
be
the
interesting to
goal.
see how many minutes he's racked up this season at the end
Yeah,
of the season.
really
Shouldn't
scary
say
when you
it's
think
going to
about it.
be some sort of Milan record. I'm sure we've had centre backs and other, but it's going to be close up there to
Yeah,
like over 95% of all playing time.
yeah, 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 yeah. And it's
You'll have
also
more. You'll
tough.
have played more than Mignon probably, because Mignon has been injured. So usually you see the
Yeah, I think it's
goalkeeper up
gonna
there.
him and I was gonna say
Yeah,
Reinders, although Reinders has been playing a little less that, but he didn't miss a
yeah,
minute for the first part of the season, so he's also gonna be up there. And the goal, yeah, I mean, obviously a little bit lucky with the bounce, but I mean, just to make that run and to keep going and just it's impressive. And then also the little finish, the little poke over the
yeah,
goalkeeper after that full run um, takes takes skill and a little bit of ice in the veins. And then of course we get to the infamous celebration. I'll set it up on screen right now as I talk about it. This
yeah.
is the classic Theo. He's been doing it since before. I saw some absolutely idiotic Inter fans saying that he's trying to beat
Oh,
Di
the
Marco,
DeMarco
which
fanboys.
makes no sense. He's been doing this since Di Marco was still at Las Verona, coming off the bench. Um, what actually happened, and we saw this because of also what the referee reports, is he does his celebration. The Verona coach, actually, the manager, who has no idea what's going on, takes that as a provocation to the fans. So then starts bickering with Theo, and the referee that has zero brain cells was like, "Well, you guys are bickering. You must both have a point. Double yellow to one each."
Yeah.
Which makes no sense. It's fucking ridiculous. It really is. Because of that, we get now Teo's going to miss the Fiorentina game, which is going to be a big one, especially because, again, we don't have anyone in his position. It is just beyond stupid. And I wanted to get
Yeah, I
your
mean,
thoughts because
how
I know you
many
feel
of those?
strongly.
Yeah, how many of these kind of silly? I mean, not, and I don't mean the yellow cards where are silly by a Milan player to have done, either after the whistle's been blown, or we've had some instances. But for example, the Zlatan Ibrahimovic one, where there's something else. I can't remember which referee it was, but something was misinterpreted and he got sent off. This one is just all these strange yellow cards that are sort of coming out of nowhere that I don't really understand, and that's perhaps why it sort of racks up towards the end of the season. I can agree that some Milan players, at least in the last few seasons, have just done stupid things off the ball, sort of comments perhaps, or overcrouching the referee. But at the same time, what team in football, or sort of what team in football doesn't do that nowadays? It's part of the game, I would say, almost.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're saying, it's a referee that perhaps if doesn't really get to the end of it while he just sees them bickering, like you said, gives them both a yellow card. I don't think that's ever warranted. It's sort of going. You should be sort of should be innocent until proven guilty, and in this situation, referee just sees the situation, because you know what, both get a yellow card, and yeah, misses the game against Fiorentina when we're back in 12 days, and it's disappointing. We've had a lot of discussions, you and I, Stefano, about how many stupid yellow cards we get compared to other big teams. Even um, it's, I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's really annoying, and I think it's also the defiance of the referees in this case that really that happens a lot in Italy. We discussed this the other day on stream as well, where the guideline clearly from the league and the FA, the Italian FA, is clear of never admit anything. You just keep going. You double down on mistakes and issues if there's the case. Where he's threatening to send him off when all Theo is doing at the end of the half is asking why. I just did my celebration, I scored, I did nothing wrong. Why am I getting yellow carded? Why am I missing next game? That's what annoys me really the most, and just the lack of consistency. And
Yeah,
then I think we'll speak more about referees and Italian FA in a second when we get to other games played in Serie A. What about before we talk about the second half and maybe the last two goals, your worst players? Maybe actually I get started off. I thought Ruben Loftus-Cheek had a very poor game. He had a lot of mistakes, a lot of passes that kind of ruined attacks. He just seemed, every time he touched the ball, it seemed to kind of do
yeah.
something wrong. I think he showed some of his limitations today, or yesterday, I should say.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I mean, he did sort of the dummy, when he jumped over the ball and let it go to Pulisic, who then hit the crossbar. I mean, that's some sort of awareness, but other than that, I don't think I can recall any sort of real positive movement. And then the lead up to the goal we conceded, I think it might have been a bit of miscommunication between
For sure.
Reinders and Loftus-Cheek. That happens, I guess, but yeah, just perhaps for that. I mean, did he play a terrible game? Obviously not. But if we're gonna have to pick someone who had a mediocre slash, we know what he can actually bring to the table. I think it'd be Loftus Cheek. A bit disappointing. Calabria, I don't always want to hang out to dry. I think he had somewhat of a mediocre game, but that's. I love you, Calabria, but that's how the cookie crumbles. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't think it's anything. I don't think it was like shocking like the other night. Um, but yeah, also could have done better. Then
yeah,
maybe to wrap up, we can talk about the last two goals, which you already kind of did. I mentioned it before. That Okafor steal, I think, is great, and another kind of aspect that is nice to play with when he plays. Not that Giroud doesn't press. In fact, I love, and he did it against Verona as well when he came in the last half hour. When he comes and he just chases down and he covers for Leao when Leao doesn't come back, even though the man is 36.
yeah.
But just that mobility, he gets to his man a little bit quicker, steals the ball, and then runs off, something that Giroud just can't do. It just shows everything. Decent finish, obviously. If it was a better finish, maybe he puts it away, but good save. And then Pulisic is there to wrap it up. Before I pass it on to you, I would like to point out that this was Chris Pulisic scored the 5,000th goal for Milan as a whole in Serie A. Obviously, quite big milestone. The third club in Italy to get to that milestone. Any guess to you on who scored the thousands, second, the 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and 4,000 goal? There's
I
you
think
can
I've seen
get
that.
a few of these.
I saw it scroll
Okay.
past. I think so. Well, thousandth, would it be Gunnar Nordahl? Is he this
Yes,
thousandth or two
in a
thousandth? Yeah.
Milan Roma 6-2
Wow.
on
Wow.
in
Yeah.
1950.
Yeah. Gunnar Nordahl, Swedish as well.
Yeah, there we
Um.
go.
Oh, 3,000, 3,000.
The 2000 is Ferrario
Oh,
in a
2,000.
Spal Milan 2-4 in
Okay.
1964.
Okay.
Then there's a big gap to the 3000, which is Massaro in a Milan Torino 2-0 in 1991.
And then it's Ricky.
No, actually. So this I read the same
Okay.
thing. It was actually a typo. It was Pippo Inzaghi, also pretty fitting
Ah, great.
for the
Yeah.
4,000 goal in a Milan Livorno 1-4 in 2008. And Pulisic now
Okay.
joins that club. Pulisic, I mean, the goal was just a tap in, nothing crazy. Good movement, of course, to be there and to follow the attack. Um, but another good game from him. You know, he just provides so much relief. I think it's what also Leao has been missing for so many seasons at Milan. Just that ability to not be double teamed all the time because there is danger on that right wing. So I'm just so happy to see him and to see him play well. Always put in a shift. There is a bit of a mistake, of course, on the goal we concede. It's obviously him in between him and Loftus. You know,
All right. I
that
thought it
ball
was
was
Rangers.
ours. He
Yep.
kind of gets beat. Um, Lose the ball. That's just silly. But he was also he was also very aware. You know, he came out and was on the bench, and he was banging the bench because he knew that that's his fault. You can't really go too hard on him for that. Also because the goal is a banger afterwards. And speaking of bangers, we touched it briefly. But how beautiful was that Chukwueze goal?
Yeah, it's very. I think it was quite. If I'm not mistaken, he almost. Well, he's doing it almost standing still, which I think is even harder. And it's a looping ball, and he just finds that pocket, bottom left. Great finish. I guess that technically counts as a goal from a corner, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
yeah, scores from a corner. Yeah, it's good to see. That's why we brought him in. He's got an incredible touch. I think he has. Was he top or top three in the whole of La Liga last season in dribbles? So we know he's got that capability. He scored a fair few goals and assists in Villarreal. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, truly beautiful. Kind of standing still. Gonna be very likely um, goal of the weekend, even
he is
though
very
Dani
left-footed.
Maldini did score that beautiful free kick. Obviously, Milan Loni. And just happy to see him get going. Hopefully, this gives him confidence. There's going to be a lot of playing time for him with Europa League coming, with the Serie A situation being the one that it is, meaning just too far from the top and pretty far from the non-Champions League spots. He's gonna get a lot more minutes, I think, to give Leao and Pulisic some breathers. So it's very good to see him sort of get going. Um, then I guess if this is the game, we should, I think, talk about the rest of the Serie A games, or maybe the big Serie A headlines.
Okay.
Let's start maybe with Juve, who played first. They draw 0-0 to Genoa in one of the worst Serie A games I've seen in a long time. Just absolutely
Was
boring. Nothing happened.
I'd
Just
watch
pure
rather
Allegri
yeah
football.
I'd rather watch paint dry.
Yeah, it's truly. I mean, Allegri has lost it. What drives me crazy is that, I mean, not everyone, but I see a lot of media, both official Italian media, but also people on Twitter, going on, oh, what is happening to Juve? What is Allegri doing now? And before they were praising him about the miracle that he's done, and Juve is competing with Inter now. And Juve's been playing, they played maybe 5 good games all season, but otherwise they're this. This is the team that they are. He refuses to play. He plays not to concede. He tries to, they call it a cortomuso, and he called it a cortomuso in Italian. He tries to win by 1-0. Uh, and, you know, it's fine. Obviously the result speaks for themselves. If you win, you're always going to be put on a pedestal. But it doesn't take the reality away that you don't play good football. Just because you beat Milan because a shot from outside the box that was not going to be dangerous gets deflected by Krunic by mistake, well, not even a mistake, just kind of deflection and goes in, and you win 1-0, doesn't mean you played a good football game. Uh,
Yeah,
and
well, I
you're
mean,
going to win
he
some of
has to
those
go.
1-0, and sometimes you're going to draw 0-0, and sometimes you're going to lose, which was what they've been doing. Um, and yeah, he's off the chain. I'll leave it to you in a second, but also
Yes,
in
I mean,
the
some we can if you want to talk just the actual football itself. I mean,
Mhm.
that squad is declining rapidly in terms of big names. They were, I shouldn't say. unlucky, but players that they brought in a few years ago, people like Kulusevski, people like even Ramsey. Now, I'm not saying Aaron Ramsey's world class, but they spent quite a lot of money on his wages, for
Yeah, for
example.
sure.
Um, Various cooking the books, as you say. Pogba, again, the player that was, I guess, supposed to lift that Juve midfield up,
Yeah,
gets suspended for 4 years for doping. Stuff like that will eventually be the end of you if you're not sort of reinvesting in the squad. You had sort of the back. I mean, Chesney's getting years and years older. Players like Chiellini, Bonucci is long gone. Vlahovic has had some injury troubles, but if you're going to get into a spat like Vlahovic did in this game, telling Allegri to shut up, and then afterwards in the press conference, Allegri going and saying he will be fined. I'll make sure of that, or whatever it was the translation, stuff like that is just going to be the end of I shouldn't say the end of your club, but it's not a good image for your club, especially a team like Juventus
yeah,
who have splashed the cash on quite a few players like
yeah,
Chiesa. Obviously, that's another injury that's hampered his development curve, even though he was very good when he came from Fiorentina. Yeah,
yeah. And
it's
I think
it's
it's
I shouldn't say
definitely.
sad to see the downfall of Juve. I will be there no matter what,
Yup, I'm right
but
there with you.
Allegri has to leave surely for Juve.
Yeah,
Maybe it's going to be a refresh that they didn't want to get rid of him mid-season, and like you said, they were second. You can't. It's a bit, I guess, a bit like our situation with Pioli, where we're not going to get rid of Pioli when we're sitting second or third, and still made it to Europa League through the group of death in the Champions League, right? And we've got Pioli haters and Pioli lovers. I feel like there's no in between almost. Might be just
mm-hmm.
us two, but yeah, Allegri has to go. It's strange that it's gone to this way. I think Allegri's ego is massive, and I
Yeah,
think he feels like he's owed something from Serie A and Juventus for taking over a fantastic Conte squad that was built over for years and years, a well-oiled machine, and then turning it into this. I think he's getting caught out massively in where he is as a coach.
yeah. He's getting paid a lot of money as well. Yeah, I think. I mean, it's definitely not the end of Juve, but it's the end of Allegri's time at Juve. Uh, just I mean for sure I don't see how they continue next year, and I wonder if it's kind of the end of Allegri's career unless he's willing to take a big step down, which I don't think he is. I think he turned down Real to go back to Juve because he already promised they would come back. Those opportunities just won't come anymore, and that type of money won't come
Especially when it's
anymore.
a especially when it's a character issue that it seems to be like as well.
Yeah,
It's not necessary that his ideas and tactics might be outdated in a way, and he doesn't. But at the same time, he seems to be a massive ego, and I think that's gonna hurt his chances of going anywhere big. I mean, I think even Arsenal fans were wanting Allegri to take over before or just after Unai Emery. Like
yeah.
that's not too far long ago.
It really isn't. And yeah, now he's between his outdated football and just I mean fighting with Vlahovic when he's meant to be keeping your squad afloat, refusing to ever try to attack, to ever try to play with three. I mean, you have the ability to play with Chiesa, with Vlahovic. You have so many players going forward, so many creativity. You can play with three at front, which he was actually questioned by Italian media, by Sky, I think, and was like, and he just told them to basically f off and said, hey, I don't tell you how
Yeah,
to do your job, you don't tell me how to do mine. And it almost seems like now he's not doing those changes out of spite. I think he's lost the plot, and that's gonna be the end of him uh, at Juve. I do
yeah,
wonder who's next on the Juve bench. If I had to guess, uh, I think Thiago Motta probably has a pretty good chance, unless there's a
yeah.
Conte return. I don't that maybe I don't really
Yeah.
see, but
But
there's
yeah, if for example, I guess it's a mix for Thiago Motta. Do I take a Milan or do I take a Juventus? I'm not sure the financial situation between the two, but if you just look at the squad, and I'm not saying the football they're playing, but the squad depth, you could argue almost that Juve might have a bit of a better squad on paper.
I would disagree, but yeah, I mean it's not far.
Okay, yeah, it's not far, and you've got players like Chiesa and Vlahovic.
Hmm.
Whilst we have our Leao and our Teo, they've also got a Vlahovic and Chiesa that if they get in
Hmm.
form, they will score those 20 goals each almost per season.
Yeah.
Yeah, so probably Thiago Motta. I haven't been reading a lot of Juventus Twitter or any headlines too much. I think they need to sort out this season first so that they don't drop below Bologna. Perhaps even Roma sort of
Yeah,
coming
it
up
would get
there,
really
sort of
interesting if they
creeping
start
up there.
getting, if they continue dropping points like they have, it will start getting very interesting because they're still pretty far. And Italy's at the moment not for sure, but likely to get the fifth Champions League spot, which obviously helps the whole fight there.
Yeah.
But they drop a few more points. Roma doesn't look like they're stopping. Bologna is coming, even though Zix is injured at the moment, but obviously they have the break. Atalanta won't go away. Um, it'll be very interesting to see. Speaking of benches, then quickly, I do want to pick your mind. If we finish second, I think the chances of Pioli staying next season are pretty low. I think it's been pretty clear this year that we
Yeah.
have the cycle has ended, and then we're just gonna bring it to summer, and then we're gonna part
I
ways.
think the only save I think the only savior would be if they win Europa League. Then you can
You think
then
second
purely
place in
might
Europa League win, he stays? They keep him. They re-sign him.
it would be different. I think Pioli does have a bit of loyalty to where Maldini was in that position. I don't think he's a big fan of new management, maybe. Um, but I wouldn't be against him leaving. So I prefer him to leave at the end of the season. It's sort of like a thank you very much for your time. Um, sort of God bless. Be on your way. There's no hard feelings, but yeah, you never know.
Yeah, no, I
Europa
get it. I
League,
think it
Europa
would be
League in
tough.
second, Europa League win in second. If it's for example against Liverpool, then you might have to even question: do we really want Pioli to leave? But
Yeah, obviously a
because I mean,
big
then he's
part.
again, Pioli ball has won another big trophy. Now I'm not saying that we will. I'm saying our chances are still quite low. I'm not being arrogant here, but somehow it does work, and Inter's having an incredible season. Um, that um, that, for example, Milan didn't have when we won the league, but somehow Pioli ball does work.
Yeah. I think obviously the biggest part will be who is available. I think
Yeah.
in any case, no matter if we win Europa League and finish in second or finish in third and get dropped by Roma, who's available. There's no point in moving for the sake of moving. He's not getting sacked. I think.
But then, yeah,
So
the chance of him leaving also, if Milan's management hasn't made up their mind now, right? I'm not saying that they have to have a new manager lined up right now, but if they're still in the mindset of, do we wait until the season's over? Do we keep because they're thinking, oh, Europa League. If he wins that, maybe we'll talk about it. But I really, really want it to be sorted before the transfer window opens because we're gonna have. I'm not sure. It depends on financial results, but again, hopefully the new manager will be able to bring in some new players that might be completely opposite to what Pioli would want to bring in. So hopefully this is sorted before the transfer window opens with a clear opinion on who we want on the bench, rather than waiting until Europa League final, which is what mid-May-ish, just a
yeah,
few weeks before the transfer season opens.
yeah, that would be key. I think and hope that they would move sort of behind the scenes now to try to line
Yeah,
up whoever it is, one of the big names that everyone's talking about, Conte, De Zerbi, Thiago Motta, and all those. Hopefully one of those and not some mid level. And then come summer, just sort of like a peaceful resolution. They part ways. The new manager can come in with already some weeks of thinking and knowing, talking with the management about the mercato and who to bring in.
and
Hit
it's
the
also
ground
the
running,
Euro. That's
train.
gonna
Yeah, true. Euro is going to be massive, of course, in terms of player development and training for the next season. Um, then if we look, Roma win. I saw the highlights of the game. Decent game. I don't know. Luca Pellegrini. Pellegrini looks incredible. Not Luca, sorry. Just Pellegrini looks incredible. He's really reborn.
that's good for the
Will
that's
be
good for your Italian national team, I
Yeah, will be
think.
very good for Italy. Might not be so good for Milan comes Europa League time, but we'll see. But obviously, the big news is coming from Inter, who drops points. They draw. They concede for the first time this season in the last 15 minutes of a game in Serie A, which is insane. Um, drop some points, 14 points lead to Milan right now. Are we smelling a little comeback?
Are we smelling a bottle job? No, absolutely not.
Yeah,
Not
that would be.
not with.
It's never
No, I
happened in
mean we're
history. This
gonna
type of lead.
no. They are out of Champions League, so they are literally only and Coppa Italia. They have one mission only.
Yeah,
It'll have to take the full starting 11 to be injured, I think.
yeah. They would need to
But
miss a
it's
lot
good to
of
see sort of
players,
that
and they
they're
would
not
need to be
immortal.
choke it in a big
Yeah,
way because yeah, this sort of lead has never been blown, even with a derby in. I don't see it. But speaking of their whole 11 missing, one person that might be missing a lot of games is Acerbi. Um,
yeah,
I know you saw this, but for the viewers who might have not, it appears that Acerbi called a racial slur called Juan Jesus, defender of Napoli, who of course scored the goal to draw it, a racial slur. We don't at the moment have actual footage of that happening, but Juan Jesus went to the referee to report this and complain. We do have footage of him complaining to the referee and saying, I won't stand by this. He called me the N word. And then he points to actually the badge that says Keep Racism Out on his shirt. In classic Italian referee fashion, the referee does absolutely nothing.
yeah.
And then we have footage of Acerbi actually going to apologize to Juan Jesus, trying to hug him, while Juan Jesus correctly so moves away and says, I'm not racist, I'm sorry, and then appears to point towards Turam and saying, again, this is, we don't have, I guess, actual words from this, but
This is
saying,
all
I'm not
I guess,
racist. One of my
allegedly.
teammates
Yeah.
is black. The repercussion of this has been that Acerbi has been recalled from the Italian national team for the moment, who's of course off to international break and being replaced by Mancini from Roma. And now we'll see, in theory, by the rulebook, there is a possibility of a 10-game suspension, according to Italian FA. But we all know how the Italian FA would love and has loved to kind of glance over this type of accident. What do you
It's
think of
not
the
good for
accident?
their
What do you
image.
think was going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's no footage. Not that you shouldn't trust Juan Jesus at all, but that I think um, that will be difficult for the Italian FA to sort of there. How do I put this? If it's going to be Juan Jesus's word against Acerbi, I think the Italian FA is going to find a hard time to
Yeah,
ban Acerbi for 10 games, right?
yeah,
Now, I'm not saying Juan Jesus made it up, but that's how the Italian FA, I would imagine, thinks.
yeah,
But Juan Cruz's reaction of going straight to the referee, saying obviously claiming that Acerbi had called him the N word. I think that enough is enough proof that it actually happened. And then
and
you
Acerbi
see
apologizing,
Acerbi,
right? Obviously, we don't know what
and
he's
then Acerbi
apologizing
is
for, but he is
yeah,
apologizing.
Acerbi is exactly. So those two actions wouldn't have happened if Acerbi hadn't said anything, right? So there's no smoke without fire.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So yeah, but I think it's fair play that the Italian football, I guess the national team, we call them. I'm not sure if it was a Cherby's choice or Inter's choice or even the Italian national team's choice. I
Yeah,
think that
it
was
seems
good.
it seems the
Um,
Italian national team from Spalletti. I mean, we don't know. Obviously, you're 100% right with
that was,
that. Spalletti has had quotes about wanting not wanting good players but wanting good people in the squad. So
yeah,
maybe that weighs a little bit.
yeah, yeah. I will see how it goes. I think it's good that it's an international break, so hopefully the Italian FA takes their time to actually investigate this rather than coming to some bullshit excuse of a reason to not ban Acerbi because there's a game next week or something like that.
Yeah,
They've got their time to actually investigate this. Hopefully this gets resolved.
yeah, and I would
Um,
hope that
I'm not sure.
go for it.
No, no. So I mean, I don't know what Acerbi is like as a person. Obviously, if don't mistake me if I'm wrong, he had testicular cancer just after he left Milan or
Mm-hmm.
during
Yeah,
when he was at Milan. So I guess he's been through some tough times. Obviously, that's no. You'd think that would make a person make somebody a better person. Clearly not. Um,
yeah,
I think
it's just one of those things
it's
that needs
dark.
to
It's a
go.
dark day for Serie A. Again, another race. Now from a player, not even the fans, where it's usually happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the Nazis situation and the countless others beforehand. I think I was saying last week when um, the manager had butted a player. That was I guess good for sort of Serie A to be perhaps not in the best limelight, but out in the news and stuff like that, sort of the feelings and the passion for the
Yeah.
game and stuff like that, because it wasn't the worst headbutt in the world. But then again, now a week later, we're here talking about this. It's sad because we both followed Serie A for since we were born, um, and it's really not growing the game.
Yeah, I mean, we went from isn't maybe any publicity is good publicity to nope, this is definitely not good publicity.
No, no,
Yeah, and
exactly.
I hope that it's a game that obviously has a lot of cameras and a lot of VAR that we're able to at very least if the word was said, not said, but we're able to uh, sort of come to a definitive conclusion about that. Um, if obviously he did say it, then it's just terrible, terrible, and it's also terrible that he goes off to apologize and says, "Ah, come on, I'm not racist," and like this just comes out because I'm angry. And it's like, yeah, that's absolutely the problem. The fact that,
Yeah, and I
um,
think I think even Juan Jesus came out afterwards, and I mean he's allowed to say whatever he wants, but he was also saying that it's the heat of the moment. But I personally don't agree with that. The heat of the moment, it's
yeah,
inexcusable. But Juan
yeah, no,
Jesus gets to say whatever he wants about that situation.
yeah,
It's him who gets offended. But it's a shame that if it gets sort of whitewashed like this of not coming to something concrete
yeah,
of
no,
a
fully agreed. It
of
shouldn't be.
resolution.
There's no excuse. I don't care what's happening on the
Yeah,
pitch. It's still a game. You don't we just inexcusable. But will be interesting to see if he does miss games, if he does miss a lot of games, and sort of how Inter also bounce back from the poor performance.
yeah,
Then I think as we wrap up, maybe we talk just quickly about the Milan players that are off to the international break. I'll put up now the
yeah.
call ups. Um, as you would expect, all the classic ones, Theo, Magnan, and Giroud off to France. Magnan, who did the splits to save a ball in the game in the dying moments of the game, but is reported to be fine and is off to traveling to France. Hopefully he gets some rest. It's really friendlies. I would hate to see him play, but knowing knowing how
Yeah.
France usually do it, they all three will are likely to play a fair
Yeah,
amount.
when have what is it? I mean, I can't say I watch the French national team, but when have they not gone all out with their team? I know they've got incredible depth,
Yeah,
but at the same time, I feel like they always play their starting 11, and maybe
yeah,
that's the
they do.
success that's why they succeed because they have these world class players. Why should they
Yeah, they
tinker
don't mess
around
with
and
the
try new
formula.
things? But
They use their
yeah,
friendlies
they
to
brought in
actually
Theo
practice.
Hernandez, I guess. You know how we had the debate of Theo should he have been called up, but Deschamps stuck to his guns back then, and it's clearly worked.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
the
when
usual suspects of players. Looking at the list, not surprised if. I mean, yeah, no, that's it's quite standard. I think
yeah,
that's the only ones you could really say is Tomori and Loftus Cheek, but it's Southgate. He's never going to change anything this
yeah.
close as well to the Euros.
It's
I mean,
just shocking though
he's banking
because
on Henderson.
it is friendlies, right? It's not that this is the Euro squad. So this is the moment where you call up those friends. I mean, you saw it even in Spalletti, who called up Florenuncio, who scored a banger and played well. Um,
Yeah,
and he's trying a few things. Obviously, I'm not saying you go all crazy, but it's the time to call up those fringe players and say, okay, let's see it. You're having a good season. I mean, Tomori
I mean,
was.
has Henderson been different ever?
I mean, I think we're
If
preaching
not,
to
he's
the
gone
choir
worse.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's really nonsensical. And for us, Tomori has been the best player, the best defender in Serie A a couple seasons ago. Definitely the best, our best defender for 2 seasons, and barely got called up. So this season, after a big injury, he was definitely not going to get called up. But Loftus
yeah,
Cheek, someone who's a midfielder that's so versatile, that can play CDM, that can play can play a little more forward. Obviously, he's never going to
yeah.
start. They are super. England is also super stacked squad, but to not get him in to say, hey, maybe you are that off the bench CDM that we're missing. After he's been putting
Yeah,
these performances, after he's been scoring so much, it's just crazy to me. But
yeah,
again,
and I
we'll never
mean,
get it.
in that squad, Henderson's going to start. I'm not sure if Calvin Phillips was picked for the English national team, but you know what you're going to get from Henderson. He doesn't need to sort of come back into the England squad type thing. They Ajax have won 2 out of the last 10 that they've played since he came in the winter transfers window. He's being hailed as a great captain or whatever. Ajax should not be performing at that level, and they were struggling in the very beginning of the season. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's disappointing that Ruben Loftus-Cheek doesn't even get a shout.
yeah. It definitely is. For the rest, I think it's all pretty fair. Obviously, we have Pulisic, Musa going off. They'll probably get some fair minutes. Hopefully, everyone's healthy. Randers gets called up. He might be the one that plays the least out of all these players. Benacer goes up to Algeria. Okafor for Switzerland will be interesting to see if he starts and continues his good form. And out to Portugal. A little bit surprising. I had to triple check. It doesn't look like Nigeria called up Chukwueze, which is very, very interesting. But maybe an opportunity for him to stay at Milanello and continue on getting in better shape.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure if Nigeria changed their coach after their
Yeah, they
loss in the
did.
final, but they did. Yeah. Well, maybe that's why. Sort
Yeah.
of fresh blood and then giving new players a chance.
Hmm.
Chukwueze wasn't starting necessarily, obviously in the Afcon, but good. I think it's good for us. He needs. It would be a shame if he went with the Nigerian national team, played over 2 games, played like 30, 40 minutes, probably quite poorly compared to what he's been doing for us when he's been coming on. So I think it's good for him just to put his head down and, like you said, about the Pulisic situation, put his head down, work hard, get your goals and assists, and then you get to play on a regular.
Yeah, I think for the rest is all pretty much as expected. I think if you look beyond Tomori and Loftus-Cheek, the closest ones to making a call up were maybe Florenzi, who came from a good stretch of games, and Calabria. But we know, maybe rightfully so, Calabria isn't super favorited for the Italian national team, and yeah, but
Jovic
those
from
two are
Serbia, I
crazy.
think, is Serbia playing some sort of tournament against a Russian team or Team Russia in Russia, but without the backing of their FA. I think. I
I
mean,
don't
I
know
guess I'm
actually.
surprised he's not been called up. Has he? I think he was called up back in October, wasn't he?
Calabria.
No, Jovic. Sorry.
Jovic.
Yeah,
Um, I
I
don't
think.
remember actually. Did we
Yeah,
leave him
I mean,
out
he's been
or
playing all right since Christmas.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah? Maybe also lack of minutes. I don't know. It seems weird not to call him up, but they also are do have decent player in their
yeah,
positions.
Vlahovic, Kostic, whatever.
Yeah, we're talking about maybe doing a little deep dive into the Euros, how we think teams are lining up. I think there's big questions for some big teams. Obviously, England, who's we kind of got into it, who's going to be called up. How are they going to line up? Same for Italy. Some positions are obvious, but who starts in midfield? There's a lot of question. The striker role, which is what Spalletti is also trying to fix this with this little friendlies, or trying to understand who's even going to bring. Maybe we'll
Yeah,
get into it if we get a little bored during the international break, which we always hate. And get to it. Otherwise, I think that's it. We come back. We have Fiorentina to look forward to. Fiorentina's game against Atalanta was cancelled because of a pretty serious condition from one of their management. Interesting enough, obviously, since they will play against us before they make up that game against Atalanta, their bookings carry over. So Bonaventura, who is set to miss the Atalanta game, is not going to miss the Milan game, which is a little sad
right.
to see.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
I guess better for us if is little less option.
yeah.
But I was kind of looking forward to him getting some love from our fans. I still do have a soft spot for him.
One of the only bright spots in our banter era, and
Yeah,
a bit of a Milan cult
yeah, and I always
legend, if
thought
you
he
want to
could
call
he
a
could have
cult
stayed
legend like that.
1 or 2 years longer, and obviously not start, but still, being a solid player.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then it gets it gets steep pretty quick. We have two Serie A games, then Roma. Um, Roma
come
play
thick and fast.
Derby right before us. While I think we have Lecce. I don't know if you remember, but I don't.
Yeah,
Is it
I'm pretty sure it's Lecce. It's Fiorentina Lecce
and then Roma? Yeah,
because
well,
our
Roma is
game
the
against
Derby before
Sassuolo.
us,
Yeah.
which maybe helps us a little bit. And then yeah, it will be a pretty crazy last little swing to the season. Maybe the last thing we mentioned before we go is unfortunately the good news about Manyang not having anything serious cannot be shared by Kalulu, who
Oh,
strained his ligament unfortunately and will be out for what we read is about a month and a half. Real shame. He was looking strong. He was just starting to come back. He had some minutes. First game he started. And just such an important season for
Yeah.
him. Who was looking forward to being happy and being playing. I saw the interview with him where he was joking about being 100% and just him saying, better times are coming when I can play. It really sucks for
Has
him. Hopefully we see
I
him at
mean,
the end. But
I'm not saying that Kalulu has been incredibly outstanding as just a footballer, but the fact that we picked him up for, I think it was close to 750,000 euros as France's under 21 captain and Lyon's under 21 captain is some incredible scouting. Now, obviously he's been injured a lot this season, but has to be one of the best money for value signings Milan has ever done. Almost, it's
yeah,
not coming
and I
for
mean
free.
just that little stretch at the end of the Scudetto season where him and because of injuries, him and Tomore to be the two center backs all the time and just put up a wall. We're not conceding. Was incredible. So we wish him a speedy recovery, and hopefully we get to see him a little bit more this season. And that's it. Then have a good international break. Thank you for the talk and the little mini rants. And
Yeah,
I'll see you
always got to be done.
after that.
Thanks, Stefano. See you soon.
Ciao.